So this is the third week of our trending series, and today we are talking about peace. We're talking about peace. Why is it that in this country today, in 2019, that there is an epidemic of anxiety? Did you know that? I mean, everybody and their brother and sister are on medication for anxiety. And you might say, well, there's just so much stress. Come on. We live in the best time, in the best place in the history of the world. No one has ever had it as well as we have it. You go to any faucet in America and turn the water on, and clean water comes out. I mean, it's amazing. We have clean water, we have health care, we have all these privileges. The people among us that we consider poverty-stricken, they all have one of these. I mean, seriously, we have cars. We get in our car and we can travel wherever. We can get on a plane, go anywhere in the world. We can communicate. We can get up-to-date news all the time. Maybe that's part of the problem, but I'm saying that it's strange that to be, where we are in this country, in the time that we live, and have anxiety and fear be, an epidemic in our culture, something is not adding up. And there's a reason for that. This is what Jesus said. He said, peace, this little verse right here is packed with so much. He says, peace I leave with you. My peace I give you. Can you imagine that? This is Jesus now. He's saying, peace I leave with you, and my peace I give to you. How does he give us this peace? How is this possible that he imparts this peace to us? Well, I can tell you very simply. He said to his disciples, he said, I am with you now, but I will be in you. That's how we get him, we get his peace, right? A beautiful thing. This is amazing. He says, I'm leaving you my peace. He says, I'm giving you my peace. He says, I do not give it as the world gives it. See, the world has a way, and when I say the world, I'm talking about people in general. Most people think that there are certain things that bring us peace, and they're wrong. Those things don't bring us peace. He says, let not your hearts be troubled, and do not be afraid. So I put together just a list, short list. This is not a comprehensive list at all. It's just a few things that came to my mind. Things that we think will bring us happiness and fulfillment and joy. And the word that we use all the time is happy. I just want to be happy. I was talking to Hampton the other day. He said, we're talking about his future and what he's going to do and how he's going to live his life. And he says, I want to be happy. And I said, I don't blame you. I want to be happy too. And so he says, do not let your hearts be troubled and do not be afraid. And he's telling us this thing here. Don't let it be this way. It can be a different way. All right? Now this is what the world says. Money will bring you peace and happiness and joy and fulfillment, right? If that was the case, we would have an epidemic of peace and joy and fulfillment in our culture, wouldn't we? I mean, let's tell the truth. Because we have lots of this. We have a whole lot of that. All right? The next thing, a job. Boy, if I could just get that next job, if I could just get, God a few years ago gave me my dream job. I had been praying about this job as a worship pastor. 17 years ago now, that happened. I had been praying. I would go out in my backyard in Montgomery, and I was in full-time construction business for years there. And I would go out in my backyard, and I would pray at night, oh, Lord, give me this job. And I interviewed all over the place for different jobs, and I finally got my dream job. I mean, I even told God, I said, I really would like to be where there's some mountains around. I want to be where there's some mountains around because I like the mountains. I want to be at a place like that. And so he brought me to this area, and specifically Hampton Cove, and there's just mountains all around. I built my house. I'm looking at a mountain behind my house. Dream job. But guess what? Nothing really changed as far as my peace and joy and happiness and fulfillment. Funny how that happens. It's not. These are not the answers. The next thing, relationships. When I was a kid, I thought, boy, if I could just get to high school and get my driver's license, everything would be great. I'd be able to drive myself wherever I wanted. And I was thinking that I might, I just used to dream about having a great car. And whenever I turned 16, my dad let me drive his car, and I wrecked it the first day that I got my driver's license. And then he gave me a 1965 Pontiac Ventura. Does anybody know what that is? You probably don't, because it's one of the ugliest cars ever invented. And it was sky blue, too. And beautiful. Four-door, okay? And so then, I'm thinking, when I get my driver's license, and I'm driving that old nasty car around, I'm thinking, boy, if I could just get a better car, and then I'm thinking, if I could just get to college and do the things that I want to do, like if I could study music and do the things that I just really have a desire to do, that's going to be the thing. And so I finally ended up at Middle Tennessee State studying music and recording industry and all of that. And then I was saying, if I could just find that right girl, if I could find that woman to marry, and then God gives me the best, most perfect woman for me, and I thought all my troubles were over. Wrong. This is not right. I'm not thinking. It was just not right. So I have the perfect wife, the best spouse, and I thought, that's not really what I need. I just need a partnership. I just need a partnership with a woman and just live my life together with her, and it's just going to be nothing but peace and bliss. And what I found out is not only do I have my problems to worry about, I got to worry about her problems too, And not only does she have her problems, she's got to worry about me. And then we together, holding hands, one flesh, we decide that children would be the answer. Children, that must be the answer. They're people. Need relationships, right? And then we have Hampton. And, boy, I love Hampton. Hampton is a great guy. That's all I'm going to say about Hampton. He's a great guy, and we're very proud of him. And, no, he's a great guy. He's very talented. But now I have to worry about me. I have to worry about her, and I got to worry about him. And then we had two more. Somebody actually told us this. I just thought of this. Somebody actually told us when we had two children, they said 3 are much easier than 2. What is wrong with me? I have brain damage. I just am not thinking straight, I guess. But no, we had 3 children, and listen, I can't imagine my life without my wife and without my children. But and it's the greatest blessing in the world. Every time I lay eyes on these people, my heart melts. It really does. And I love them. When I pass by one of them, I just grab them and I hug them, and I just love my wife and my children. But that is not the pathway to peace for us. It's not these external things. A couple of years ago, I started feeling sick, and I was sick for a long time, and I found out that I had a health problem. My gallbladder needed to be removed. And so I fought with it, went to the doctor, and, my doctor said, maybe you need to have it out. And then I went to my other friend. Both my doctor and my surgeon are both friends of mine. And I went to the surgeon, and he's a friend of mine, and he said, this is probably really not that bad. You don't have any stones. You can probably live with this. Just go home and don't worry about it anymore. And I said, okay. So I went home, and I just kept being sick. And finally, I called him up one day, and I said, get this thing out of me. It is driving me crazy. I feel sick every day. And so he said, when can you come in? I said, when do you tell me? He said, 6 o'clock in the morning. I said, I'll be there. So went the next morning. Lene couldn't go with me. She had something else to do. So my dad took me to have surgery. And I had surgery and got that gallbladder out. And I had all these visions. I'm going to be, when I get out of surgery, man, I'm going to take care of my health. I'm going to take care of everything. And I am just going to be a different person. Got my gallbladder out, regained my health, and nothing really happened different. It was just kind of the same, you know. But Jesus has a different way. He has a different pathway to peace, and it's this: trust. Trust is the pathway. Jesus calls it faith. He calls it trust. He calls it belief. This is the key that unlocks the door. This is an interesting story, and I love this story. I probably have told it so many times here. You're probably tired of hearing it, but Jesus got in the boat, and his disciples followed him. Listen, when we follow Jesus, our troubles don't just cease when we begin to follow Jesus, right? Those of you who are following him, you know what I'm talking about. Our troubles don't just cease. He got into the boat, and his disciples followed him into the boat. Suddenly, a furious storm came on the lake, so that the waves swept over the boat, but Jesus was sleeping. And I just, out of all the stories, I can believe, I can believe Noah, I can believe Jonah, and this is hard for me to believe that Jesus is asleep in the boat, and the cold water, is coming, coming over the boat. I mean, that's how you wake somebody up, right? You throw cold water in their face. Jesus, he's asleep. I want that kind of peace. I have to take a pill to go to sleep. But Jesus was asleep in the boat. And it's just so funny to me that he's sleeping in the boat. And then the disciples went and woke him up saying, Lord, save us. Save us. We're dying out here. We're going to drown. And he replied, you of little faith. Here's that word. Here's that concept. You of little faith. Why are you so afraid? Then he got up and he rebuked the winds and the waves, and it was completely calm. It was completely calm. So some of us need to wake Jesus up. Several weeks ago, I would say the last couple of years since we started the church, I know you're tired of me belly aching and complaining about this, but it's just the truth. The last couple of years have been the most trying for Lene and me since we have been married, and it's not that it's not that we wish that we had not gone down this path. In fact, it's been the most fulfilling and the most joyful time. Like when we come here on Sunday, we look at you, and when we come here on Sunday night and we see Celebrate Recovery, and when we hear the stories of lives being changed and people being helped, we love, oh my gosh, you cannot believe the blessing that is. It is the greatest blessing that we've ever had. But in the meantime, we are being stretched and pulled and just molded. You know how the potter, we talked about this a few months ago, the potter, when he takes the clay, he takes it and he slams it down on the wheel. And he mashes it down, he pounds it down, and then he begins to pull it back up into something beautiful. And that's one of the things that the Bible says, that he is the potter. We are the clay. And we talked about that story about the potter's house. Go down to the potter's house. What do you see if you go to the potter's house? You see that potter slamming that clay down, and then you see him bringing it up into something beautiful. And so the last couple of years, we have felt like we were just slammed down on that potter's wheel, and it's not comfortable, and we don't look too good, and we don't sound too good, and we don't, things are not that great. Through the week as we are struggling and we are being stretched and pulled and molded. But when we come here, we see the beautiful thing that the potter is pulling up out of that lump of clay, and it's a beautiful thing. And so no regrets whatsoever. We absolutely love what we're doing. But a couple weeks ago, I came home from work. I was tired. I was just dog tired. And I came home from work, and Lene says, she said, I need to talk to you about something. And I said, okay. So we sat down. She's usually sitting at her desk in her little office right when I come in the door, right where the front door is, right off the hallway there. And so I walked in, I sat down, and she began to tell me about this problem that we had, and we had to solve this problem. And she said, what do we do? She said, do you know what to do? I said, no, I have no idea what to do. And so the best I could offer her was I said, I'll just go upstairs and I'll pray about it. So I went upstairs and I went into my office or my studio, that room upstairs that I always go to work on my sermons and pray and that kind of thing. And I started praying, and this is what I said. I said, Lord, I don't know what to do, and I don't know how this can ever work out because it seems like an impossible situation. I said, but you know what? I trust you. I trust you. I use that word trust. And do you know what that word did in my prayer time? It unlocked peace. It did. It unlocked peace. Several years ago, I had a friend who was dying of cancer. She was a person that I worked with. I was on staff with her, and we weren't real close friends, but we were close enough. We knew each other, and I knew what she was going through, and Lene was very close to that situation. And I wrote a song one day called "He Shall Deliver Me," and it says the Prince of the Air. The Prince of the Air. You know what the Prince of the Air is? Who the Prince of the Air is? It's Satan, the Prince of the power of the air. He's what's speaking to us through the air. Turn on the television, on the airwaves, you're going to hear him speak to you. Turn on the radio, you're going to hear him speak. He is the prince of the power of the air. The prince of the air is railing against the truth. This is the song. Against the truth that our God is unfailing. And night and day and night, he whispers the lie that my God has forsaken me. Have you ever heard that? Has the enemy ever said to you, he's not coming for you this time? He's not going to help you this time. He's forsaken you. He's letting you go. He's leaving you out. You ever heard that? Oh my gosh, that seems to be the conversation that I hear most of my life. You know, I'm hearing this. You know, he's not going to help you this time. That's what I was hearing that day whenever Lene told me about this problem. But then the song goes on, and day and night he whispers a lie that my God has forsaken me. But there's a place in my heart that's quiet. God is there, and my soul can't deny it. And victory is swallowing me with mercy and grace and life. There's a place in us. When we have Jesus, there's a place in us that's quiet. And when we begin to trust and have faith and believe, that unlocks that place where Jesus is. It unlocks that place that is quiet and peaceful. There is, I just want to say one more thing about this. He's dependable. He is faithful. If you trust him, he is dependable. He's faithful. And that day, whenever I said that, I said, Lord, I trust you. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know how you're going to do it, but I know that you're going to come through in this situation. And I started to laugh almost because that peace came over me. And I was thinking, look what all God has done. He's not going to forsake me now. And so I went back downstairs, and Lene said, well, did God speak to you? And I said, yeah. He just said, don't worry about it. He's got it under control. And so that's what happened. And guess what? Problem solved. Problem solved. I don't know how it happened, but the problem got solved. Now there is a New Testament. I could not do this message about peace without talking about this New Testament principle. God created the world. You've heard the story, right? He created the world. And on the seventh day, what did he do? He rested on the seventh day. But on the first day, when it came the first day again, he didn't pick it back up and start creating again. Now he's finished. He's finished with creating. And he rested, and he entered into a state of rest. Now, in the book of Hebrews, the writer of Hebrews tells this story. And the writer is telling us about the children of Israel. They came out of Egypt. Moses led them out of Egypt. And they murmured and they complained. And they saw God every day. They saw his provision every single day. And yet they murmured and they complained and they did not believe, and they did all these terrible, rebellious things. And you know what? God swore they would not enter into his rest. That's what he said. I swear you will not enter into my rest. So the writer of Hebrews says there is yet now a rest for God's people that is yet to be entered into. And this is where he picks it up. He says, for if Joshua had given them rest, talking about Joshua bringing them into the promised land, if Joshua had given them rest, then he would not afterward have spoken of another day. There's a lot more here. You could go to Hebrews and you read the whole thing, but there's so much I didn't want to go into all of it today. It says, there remains therefore a rest for the people of God. There is a rest for the people of God. It's not in the Old Testament, in the Old Covenant, it was a day, right? In the New Testament, in the New Covenant, it is a state of existence. It's a place that you come to where you can rest. It's always abiding with you. It's always there for you to draw on. And we don't talk about this much. We don't understand this kind of rest that Jesus offers us. For he who has entered his rest, and he's talking about us, for the one, basically, who has entered into God's rest, has himself also ceased from his work as God did from his. He's saying, you've got to cease from your works. You've got to cease from your works as God ceased from his works. And when we cease from our works, you know what kind of works we have. We have the works that please our sinful flesh, right? We want to get things done. We're always working toward what's going to benefit us. We're always working for what we want. We have to stop and consider what God wants. But he said, let us therefore diligently, this is the New King James. The Old King James says, let us labor. I love the Old King James, the way it says this. Let us labor to enter into his rest. What a crazy thing to say. Let us labor to enter into his rest. He says, let us therefore be diligent to enter into that rest. So to enter into that rest, this is the way I look at it. If you're gonna labor anyway, that's what we do, right? We labor with our troubles and with our worries and with our works, trying to make things happen for ourselves. We labor and labor and labor over all those things. If you're going to labor anyway, why don't you just labor to enter into the rest? Labor to enter into the rest. Be diligent to enter into that rest, lest anyone fall according to the same example of disobedience. Now, he's talking about the children of Israel here. You can go read it yourself. And he says that they all fell. They all fell. If you go back and read the whole thing, it says that the Israelites, they all fell in the desert. Not one of them, not one of the people that came out of Egypt entered into the promised land. It was their children, their descendants that entered into the promised land. God wouldn't let them enter into the promised land, and they all died in the wilderness. And this is a serious thing. He says, let us therefore be diligent to enter into that rest, ceasing from our works, lest anyone fall. I think you could just say die. Lest anyone die according to the example of the disobedience of the Israelites. So that is this new covenant rest. It's not easy. In fact, it's very difficult. You've probably never heard me say this before, but Christianity is easy to understand. It's hard to do. It's hard to do. So, as long as you're going to labor, as long as you're going to worry, as long as you're going to put effort and energy into something, put it into this kind of effort. Labor to enter into his rest. Endeavor to enter into his rest. That means that whenever you feel yourself, or someone wrongs you, or some situation happens and you want to do the thing that gratifies your sinful flesh. We've been talking about that a lot lately. When the Apostle Paul says flesh, he's talking about our sinful nature. When you want to do the thing that's going to gratify you in that moment, rest. And that's hard to do. Labor. Make yourself do it. It gets easier. It gets easier. And so whenever you would not want to do the thing that you know that you should do, exert some effort, exert some energy to make yourself do the thing. And here's the most beautiful thing that happens whenever you perform this kind of labor. The kind of labor that says, I'm going to do what I don't want to do because it's what God wants me to do, or I'm not going to do the thing that I want to do because God doesn't want me to do it. When you exert this kind of labor, guess who shows up? Jesus. The one who said, I am with you now, but I will be in you. He shows up and he helps you do it. You couldn't do it any other way. When I said to God a couple weeks ago, when I said, I trust you, he showed up. Immediately, I felt peace and I felt confidence in him. Immediately, that's what happened. Whenever... And that was one of those things. I had to cease from my own works, which was to worry and be upset about this problem. Try to figure it out on my own. Whenever I released it to him and I said, I trust you, Lord, that's when he showed up. It's in the doing. People think it's in the learning. People think that it's in the education of Christianity that we grow. And of course, we have to learn some things. Of course, that is true. But that's not where the change takes place. It's when you take what you've learned, which is very simple to learn. Even I can teach this kind of stuff. It's that simple, When you take what you've learned and you put it into action, that's when the growth takes place. That's when Jesus grows a little bit in your soul that day. Whenever I said, I'm going to trust you, Lord, he grew just a little bit in my soul that day. My heart grew just a little bit. It's like the Grinch, when the Grinch stole Christmas, and his little dog is hanging off the ledge, in the sleigh, and he's trying to hold on, and it shows his heart, and it's bing, his heart grew. That's what happens. That's what happens to us whenever we say yes to God. When we say no to the thing that God does not want us to do, and we say yes to what he wants us to do, it takes effort. It takes labor to enter into that rest. Now, this cannot be a coincidence. But yesterday, I got a text from Lene, and it was a text that she had sent me. Oh, goodness. People have been texting me this morning now. I lost it. Okay. So she got this text from Megan Robinson. And you know Megan. She's the blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady that was up here singing a while ago. Megan, what? She's a skosh taller than that. She's a little bit taller, okay. Especially with heels. Without heels, with heels. Okay. Megan, I've known Megan for a long time, and Megan is someone, she's an overcomer. I tell you, she's an overcomer. The people who know her, they know she's there she is right there. She is an overcomer. and she trusts God, and she believes. When I first met her, she was so afraid to get on the stage and sing. And those of us who played and sang with her back then, we remember, don't we? We remember. And we prayed and we prayed and we prayed and we prayed for Megan. We prayed for her confidence and prayed for her to be able to get over that fear. And now you see that she stands up here and she sings with no fear. It's awesome. Anyway, I get this text, and it's from, Lene sends it to me from Megan. And this is what it says. It says, hey, this is Megan talking to Lene. Hey, let me tell you a story about how amazing God is, as if you didn't already know. Maddie is Megan's beautiful daughter. You've seen her around here. Tyler's beautiful daughter. Seen her around here, and she's this beautiful blonde girl, just beautiful eyes, beautiful angelic face. And what's more beautiful about her is what's on the inside of her. She's a great swimmer, and she was going to a swim meet in Utah. So Megan says, Maddie was flying to Utah last night. The flight was delayed from 9:30 to 11:30. Once they took off, I closed my eyes and said a prayer for safe travels and fell asleep. I told her to call me whenever she landed. An hour later, I got a call from my friend that Maddie is with. She was crying and said that they were trying to make an emergency landing in Memphis. Apparently, the plane lost one of the hydraulic systems. She told me they kept flying in circles and the pilot wasn't saying anything more. The stewardesses were running back and forth through the aisle. She saw them texting on their phones, and she realized that it was really serious. At that point, I lost her call. Can you imagine that? You're on the phone with somebody who's on the plane with your child, and the plane is circling, trying to make an emergency landing, and then you lose the call? Wow. So she said, I lost the call. She said, Lene, I was on my knees in the playroom begging and crying, asking God to save that plane. She said, I couldn't breathe. I've never been so scared. She said, Kyle was out of town. I was home alone and felt totally helpless and alone. I finally got him on the phone, and he prayed with me. From that point on, I watched my girls' plane on Flight Aware. Apparently, this is something that you watch your plane on. I don't know about that. Because I'm always at home, okay? Anxiously awaiting their landing. Finally, they made it onto a landing strip that was lined on both sides with emergency vehicles. They were expecting, get this, they were expecting to land on the belly of the plane because the landing gear wasn't working. They had been circling in the air trying to dump fuel and avoid an explosion when they crashed. I can't keep it together this morning. Because I know he heard my cries, and he answered my desperate mom prayers. My baby is safe, and I couldn't be more thankful. I talked to Maddie, and this is the part I wanted you to hear. She said, I talked to Maddie after they were on the ground. She kept saying, Mom, it's all okay. I was scared at first, but God gave me peace. This is that girl. This is that teenage girl. I prayed, and God gave me peace. When I was praying, I knew we were going to be okay. How about that? I had chills. God gave her peace. What an incredible Father we have. Her mom couldn't be there to comfort her while she was scared, but God, could, and he did. How about that? That's peace, y'all. That's peace. That's peace.